We're going to bring in Keaton, Weiss, and Russell Dobular, the host of Due Dissidence. That's Dissidence with an E-N-C-E. On YouTube, Rumble, and Substack. Please welcome back to the show, Keaton and Russell. How are you both doing?
Good. How you doing, Jimmy?
I'm doing better. I was a little depressed last week. I'm a little less depressed, so I'm feeling good.
I can tell.
So this was on Twitter, this video, and but a lot of people have a lot of funny names for breaking points, broken points, breaking joints.
Just those two mostly.
Shitty. That's another one. Now I say that they've gone full blown MSNBC. So before
it's the antidote to the mainstream media, Jimmy.
No, they're not.
It's a little shocking. This clip's a little shocking.
They're the new mainstream. That was their tag for a while. Then they realized how stupid that sounded, and they stopped.
Oh,
they used to say we're the new mainstream.
Nuh-uh.
Yes, Kurt.
I had no idea.
Yes, and then we made fun of it at this show, and then they stopped saying it.
Right, guys?
Right, guys? Okay, guys. So, guys, we were guysing the other day, watching the guys over at the Guys Show.
Come on, you guys.
And come on, guys. And the guys were talking about the guys and the economy guys. And guys, well, let's listen to the guys say it in their own guys' voice, guys.
It is an incredible tragedy because, before, I was out there saying, listen, it's not just a lesser two evils vote. If you look just at antitrust and you look just at labor.
If you look just behind his ear, Chris Christie looks skinny. If you look just over here, I mean, he looks fat. Looks like he's really got he's got abs behind his ear. But other than that, she was saying the only reason not to vote for Joe Biden is because of Gaza. That's what she's saying right now.
Well, if you just don't look at any other thing,
or
that affects you on any level.
Watch this.
It is an incredible tragedy because, before, I was out there saying, listen, it's not just a lesser two evils vote. If you look just at antitrust and you look just at labor.
And just at wages. Like wages now are...
First of all, if you look just at antitrust and labor. Okay. Joe Biden crushed a railroad strike. I don't know. That would have set the tenor for the entire country and would have inspired a lot more union activity and workers taking control and the workers rising up and knowing their power. So that's why Joe Biden and the Democrats and Republicans had to crush that strike. And they crushed it. They crushed a union and they crushed a strike. And what were those people going to go on strike for? They were going to go on strike because they didn't have sick pays. The people who run our railroads, the glue that holds capitalism together, they don't take care of those people. And they were going to go on strike just so they could get sick days. And they crushed it. Who did? Joe Biden. By the way, look what they're doing for the people in East Palestine. Fantastic. But just getting back to that, they crushed that railroad strike. The fact that you can overlook that because they made some appointments on the NLRB that are somehow better is an act of deceit. And that's what she's doing here, right? And then immediately, Mr. Cut Your Own Hair pivots to somehow wages are much higher. But I'll start it from the beginning and I won't stop it. It's a very short clip. I've already stopped it 14 times. Here we go.
It is an incredible tragedy because, before, I was out there saying, listen, it's not just a lesser two evils vote. If you look just at antitrust and you look just at labor.
And just at wages. Like wages now are growing faster than prices. And they have been for several years.
Care about
and especially at the lower end.
If you care about checking corporate power, the people he put in place in key, positions have done a great job and they've been aggressive and it's been groundbreaking and it's been a real break from the Clinton-Obama Democratic Party and obviously wildly better than, Trump had a bunch of union busters in at the end.
So if you care about checking corporate power, you should vote for Joe Biden, the biggest corporate whore in the history of politics. You should vote for Joe Biden.
His words.
If you want to, that was he told. I wish. I don't know. I should have that video here. So there was a video of him on public television saying, "When I started my career, I was ready to prostitute myself to the big money guys He says that.
They said, come back when you're older.
That's a direct quote.
Yep.
And so he went on to do just that. He's prostituted himself to the credit card industry, to the banking industry, to the prison industrial complex, to the military industrial complex, to big pharma. There isn't to oil. There isn't a corporate sector in America that Joe Biden hasn't prostituted himself for, and then squashed regular workers and seniors and students and black and brown people. Remember, black and brown people are locked up at much higher rates than their population, not because of Donald Trump, but because of Joe Biden. So also, why can't students get rid of their debt in bankruptcy court? Because of Joe Biden, not Donald Trump. Why can you have 35% interest on your credit cards? Joe Biden. So let me play one more clip, and then let me bring in Russell and Keaton. What do you have to say about this?
Well, first, on the railroad strike, the Railway Labor Act allows the government to impose terms on those contracts, which means Joe Biden, if he were a friend to labor, could have imposed terms that labor wanted. In other words, he could have just given them the 6 days. But instead, he imposed terms that were favorable to management. Second, the idea that wages are keeping up with prices. If wages are keeping up with prices, and that's a little bit of a vague term, because if you talk about prices in terms of consumer goods, inflation, groceries, you got to figure gas, rent. If wages are actually keeping up with prices, why is credit card debt so high? Why is that credit card debt so high? The reason Biden had to cap late fees at $8 a month as opposed to like $40 a month is because people are late on their credit card payments. I've been late on many a credit card payment in my day. I wasn't late on them because I forgot to pay it. I was late on them because I didn't have the money to keep up with the interest. So the fact that so many people are late,
it's expensive to be poor.
It's expensive to be poor. It costs a couple $100s a month in interest alone. And so the fact that he had to cut the late fee, he's saving people $30 a month in late fees because they're already paying hundreds of dollars a month in interest. And the reason they are behind on their credit card debt is because it's too expensive to live. So whatever gains labor has made as a result of these NLRB appointments, which I understand they've made it more difficult for management to post anti-union propaganda as a union vote comes up or something like that.
Yay.
Whatever gains have been made there have obviously not been anywhere near enough to keep up with the cost of being alive. I don't know a single person, not a single person who has like the same job now that they had 5-6 years ago who think it's easier to live now than it was 5-6 years ago. Not one. Not a single one.
Well,
it's a little easier for me to live now because I have perfected this right-wing grift called YouTube podcasting, so we make a little money on the show now. But if I was still doing what I did 5 or 6 years ago, it would be way harder. Way harder. It was until just last year. It was really hard. I used to have to get in the car and drive DoorDash, when my wife got home from work to make rent. Like, it's fucking harder now than it was 5-6 years ago. So the gaslighting on this is incredible. Look, if Bidenomics were so great, he wouldn't be polling at 35 to 40%. His favorability would be higher. Most people don't think about politics that often. Most people's politics are, if I'm doing all right, I'll vote for the president. If I'm not, I'll swap him out for someone else. Like, if people felt good about their economic situation, he'd be polling at least in the high 40s, if not the mid 50s. The reason he's polling 35 to 40% is because for the average person, the economy sucks.
I could not have had a more New York return to New York if I had planned it for a fake reality show. So I get in a cab with a Lebanese cab driver who immediately starts bitching about everything that's gone wrong in his life under Joe Biden. Immediately. I get in the cab. I didn't open up a conversation. I didn't ask him any questions. He just, you got to be making less than 27,000 to get the health care. You know how much this costs? He takes out a bottle of pills, $500 a month.
You probably had Ryan Grimm in the cab earlier that day. That's why.
And then he started talking about Trump. He's like, under Trump, things were much better. People say to me, I don't like Trump. I say, you're going to have dinner with him? You are going to meet Donald Trump? The only thing, you're going to meet Joe Biden? It doesn't matter. You like them, don't like them. It's policy.
Yeah.
And with Trump, I was much better. Everything much better. Money much better. This guy's from Lebanon. He's from Lebanon. He's Arab. I'm assuming Muslim. And he was very much feeling like, under Joe Biden, my life has been destroyed. I'm not making the money I did under Donald Trump. I don't know what his status was. He was legal in the country, but I'm not sure if he's a citizen allowed to vote. But that guy would definitely have voted for Trump. So,
well, he's wrong, so you know.
Yeah.
So
you talk to the average working person. That's what I hear everywhere. You talk to those people. They are not for Joe Biden. The only people I hear who are for Joe Biden are people who were doing well before Biden, and they'll be doing well after Biden.
So if these people aren't getting money from some kind of DNC donor to do the kind of coverage they're doing, along with Kyle Kalinske, I'll eat my fedora, because, and I'm sure they've gotten some kind of special algorithm treatment also. But the point is, she's a 40 millionaire, right? Or she was worth $40 million before she divorced her husband. And so now she's, I don't know, what is she worth? $20 million, right?
She found gold called Kyle Kalinske.
And then she, and this guy used to take a check from at least 3 billionaires. And now I think it might be down to 2 or 1. And he gets hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to say garbage like this in favor of the Democratic Party and the establishment, which is why he'll never tell you the truth about Russiagate or the Syrian war or what's going on in Ukraine. You know, they're all, and while he'll tell you garbage like this about Joe Biden. He lied about a healthcare activist. That's what, remember that? He lied about a healthcare activist when several times, not only around forced to vote, and he defended politicians. That's what this show is officially. MSN. It's like they're constantly auditioning to be on MSNBC. It's like they're little Mehdi Hassans now at this show. They're not little, by the way. They're gigantic, and they're all trying to get spot on MSNBC. That's what this seems like to me. And why else would you say these things? Krystal Ball, I can point to you saying the exact opposite of all this stuff before. But go ahead. You want to say something, Russell?
Well, I think this is something that is becoming increasingly clear. The logic in the kind of alternative media space, I think a lot of consumers of alternative media have always assumed that these people made a sacrifice by going into alternative media, that it was a principled decision not to go the corporate media route. And really, if you understand the business, in actuality, that was their main chance, because that's a very crowded space, trying to climb the corporate ladder at MSNBC. To go and place yourself nominally to the left, well, that opens up a whole new market for you. And you can bypass that corporate ladder. It's being an entrepreneur. It's being a media entrepreneur. You're going to hang out your shingle and start your own shop like they did with Breaking Points or with Ryan Grimm. You build up your profile by being this pseudo alternative journalist, but being paid by these billionaires who are funding you. And it allows you to bypass that very, very crowded corporate media space. But in the end, their hearts are in corporate media. If MSNBC didn't fire her, Krystal would be gladly taking over the Madhouse slot.
And right? I'll tell you one more thing about Ryan Grimm, is that he lied about the railroad strike that I'm talking about.
He did. Yes.
He lied to defend Joe Biden and the Democrats and the squad specifically. Specifically,
absolutely.
Because
what happened was, if I could just interject, because he cited the same railroad worker who, oddly enough, we had interviewed right as that was all going down. His name is Devin Nance. Nice guy. But Devin Nance was under the opinion that the squad had tried to help him out by passing either the amendment to the bill or a separate bill. I forget the exact details. But Ryan Grimm made it sound like the squad did what the railroad workers wanted them to do by passing two versions of the TA. which was the good version and the bad version, just like they did with the Build Back Better. They passed the Build Back Better bill alongside the shitty bill, knowing that the shitty bill would pass and the good bill would fail. And Ryan Grimm made it sound like the squad was going to bat for the railroad workers for passing both of those side by side. He made it sound like the railroad workers asked them to do that. Well, what Devin Nance told us on our show is that it was Cori Bush's office that called him and said, we have good news. We're going to pass the sick day version of this alongside the non-sick day version of this. And so they called him. And he said, I guess, okay, give it a shot, because it was the best shot that they had since they knew they were going to get crushed anyway. But Ryan Grimm made it sound like he asked the squad to do that, when in reality, what Devin told us is that the squad called him and ran that idea past him, because the squad needed to make it look like they were doing something for him. And he fell for it, because I guess he's too nice a guy to be in politics. That's why he works the railroads. But it was not as Ryan Grimm said it was. It was the complete opposite.
And it led Shama Sawant to say to Ryan Grimm, what in the actual fuck are you talking about? When he said that they were the squad was doing the bidding of the railroad workers. She said, what in the actual fuck are you talking about? That's a real workers advocate, Shama Sawant. There's one more piece of video here I want to play you. Let's watch this.
Entire legacy of economic populism, which, as Kyle was saying, like before the speech, he would be defending, I would be defending. There's so much that you can say about it. The fact that prices jumped and are still high and rent is still a huge problem is itself kind of a cloud over everything else that he's done. But everything else he's done is not nothing. Like low unemployment rate, labor militancy. Cash in people's pockets, like the economy overall in the last like 3 years, a result of the
cash
kinds of things that the left has been pushing for years.
Wow.
People just run up credit card debt for fun.
Okay, go ahead.
They don't run up credit card debt for fun. Reason why we... Sorry, go ahead.
Not one of us could wait for the end of the clip to start talking. Each one of us said something.
Well, first we started laughing at mockery.
So go ahead, Keaton, go ahead. What do you want to say about that?
Well, the cash in people's pockets. Why is credit card debt so high if people have cash in their pockets? I mean, it's just ludicrous. It's just crazy.
I just went to the grocery store. I just got back. I bought a couple boxes of cereal, some sugar, some eggs. $75. $75, man. Remember how prices were temporarily up because of supply chain?
Remember that?
Snags, and they were going to come back down. They never came back down, and they never will come back down.
But nobody's buying this, even on Twitter. Literally everyone I talk to say that it's impossible to find work right now. What the F are they talking about? What planet do these space cadets come from? They're so obviously in a rich bubble because groceries alone are outrageous. Cash in people's pockets? LOL. Who are these people? Entitled white people in their ivory towers? Nothing new. Here's one more. How do these people have extra cash in their pockets when household debt is at an all-time high? They leave out so much on purpose. And let me show you something about the unemployment rate is garbage. You can't believe the unemployment rate because it's coming from the establishment that changed the way they count unemployment in since the 1980s. They don't count it the same way they used to. So, for instance, if I have to work 3 jobs, whereas 20 years ago I had to work 1 job, they count that as 2 extra jobs in the economy.
Uniquely American.
So instead of doing it by there's a household survey. So if you call they don't use that. The household survey is you call households, how many people are working, how many people aren't. That they count the number of jobs employed, which again is a way to count them that favors the establishment. And I remember I had on 2 people talking about economics just a month ago on my show, and we were talking about the real unemployment rate. So if you see this blue line here, that's what the unemployment rate would be if they counted it the way it used to be. This is where it is now. The red line is where it is now because that's how they count it now. And let's just hear a little bit of that.
That's the one they're putting to you today.
So this is the one they report in the news. The government reports, and then
what a great job they're doing.
The news said, "Look what a great job we're doing. Unemployment is down. It's only by this. It's under
3.
It's right 3%. Now at 3%. It peaked at 15." but now it's down here, but it's actually really here. So I remember during the Great Depression, they said the unemployment during the Great Depression was 25%. So that's actually what we're experiencing right now if they counted it the way they did in 1980, but they don't. So now they're saying, because I always think like there's no way there's only 3% unemployment, right?
Yeah, and can I kick in just this one quick?
And so I'm not saying it is 25%. I'm saying it's way higher than the 3%. It's somewhere in between there and 25%. Okay. It is not 3%. So the way they're counting it is bullshit. And what is this? What is this? Oh, and every time they give the job figures, they have to then so they come out with the headline. The headline is, oh, we have 500,000 new jobs. Then they have to scale that back. Well, the headline always gets reported, but the scaling back doesn't. Right? So here we are, January 2023. Initial reading, 517,000 new jobs. Then they had to revise it down to 504. Then they revised it down to 472. Most recently, in January of 2024, it was 353,000 jobs. Then it went down to 229,000 jobs. A difference of 124,000 jobs. Oh, we just...
Did people quit one of their 3 jobs?
So, and they also cashed in... there's a lot more part-time jobs, right? And so they getting rid of good full-time jobs to part-time jobs. That's also, they count that as not unemployed. There's all kinds of crazy shit the way they count the unemployment rate, which is why you can't rely on that, which they do. They tout all that stuff non-skeptically, uncritically. They repeat all those stupid... They're getting talking points from the Democratic Party and the Center for American fucking Progress. That's where their information is coming from. Go ahead. Do you want to say add anything to this?
Well, then you also have to think about, like, I don't know how they would count gig work, you know, like people who drive Uber and Lyft, because they're not employees, they're independent contractors. So depending on how many hours they drive, how do you register that? But the bottom line is, as someone who always worked for pretty close to the minimum wage, until we started getting YouTube super chats, I always earned pretty close to minimum wage. And I always thought that for that reason, the unemployment rate was kind of a meaningless stat. Because the bottom line is, how much do the jobs pay? Like, if the wages suck, who cares what the unemployment rate is? And the wages do suck, especially now compared to the cost of living. Like I said, if they were actually keeping up with cost of living, why are people living so close to the wall, to the point where credit card debt is up, homeowner debt up? It's almost impossible to buy a car now. I mean, cars are just absolutely through the roof because of the interest rates. And so, like, even if unemployment is low, bottom line is the bottom line. Like, the bottom line is the bottom line. You have to factor everything in. It's not about what the NLRB board says that, you know, FedEx can or cannot post above the urinal. You know, do you need to join a union? You know, whatever. Like, the bottom line is, when you put everything together, it's harder to live now. Obviously, if it weren't harder to live now, Joe Biden would not be losing in every poll to Donald Trump. In a good economy, the president wins. So why is the president losing so much?
Racism.
It's because the economy sucks.
And just watching people who built their career. Look, Krystal, I think a lot of people did. I don't know about y'all. I thought she used to do really good work. So I don't know why. There's definitely been a pivot. She didn't always talk this way. She used to, you know, put together some pretty solid.
She could both sides. She could both sides. She could do good attacks. She could tell the truth, and then she also did the both. You know, she both sided Russiagate.
She did. She did.
Yes, she did. And she would say things that were useful.
But this, I mean, coming out, I'm a little shocked, honestly, because. So what's your business model here? Are you, because that's what they seem to be concerned
investment
about. They talk about their business and they have a small business. Okay, so if you're just gonna be MSNBC light, I mean, that's a crowded space. You got the Majority Report doing that. You got TYT doing that. Why do people need to hear you?
You got David Ass Pac-Man doing that.
You got Pac-Man. You have Vosh, although he's in a little trouble.
Horse Lord?
Days, I guess.
It's because they're more palatable than TYT or the Horse Lord or the other people. So a private investor looking to invest in entrepreneurs, you called it, they're going to go to them. You can tell when they switch from what the consumer would like, reflects to like, no, you guys are wrong. It turns out the people in charge were right, and you're being an idiot.
Yeah.
You have to draw your picture. You know what it is. Capital investment from someone rich.
Yeah, if you're trying to appeal to people, that pivot doesn't make any sense. If you're looking to get some of that Katzenberg money, then sure.
And of course they say, oh, it would have been great. I love Joe Biden, except for Gaza, which makes them look like they have integrity. But they completely leave out Ukraine because they don't have a critique of Ukraine because they went right along with it. They're all for Joe Biden sending arms and missiles and money to Ukraine to fight Putin, even though they all know in their heart that that's bullshit and wrong. Kyle Kalinske spent 5 years debunking Russiagate, and then he goes right along with the result of Russiagate, which is a war in Ukraine, is a proxy war with Russia. So he knows better than that. These people are on the take somewhere because they're not stupid. These are dishonest. These people are dishonest actors.
They're doing
these are dishonest actors.
Absolutely. We did, I mean, it's trivial now. I notice none of them, and correct me if I'm wrong, Keaton, you keep a closer eye than I do. They basically ignored Marianne re-entering the race, right?
Oh, I don't know.
I think Kyle did something saying it was a bad idea.
He said, did he really?
Yeah.
That's the save yourself mode of journalism. Yeah, they've had it with her.
Okay.
But yeah, I did a whole video breaking down Kyle lying to his audience about
Marianne.
Marianne, the clearly lying, like no interpretation involved. He was breaking down an article, telling his audience it said one thing, it said another, and to that end, unlike what you're doing right now as we speak, or anytime you show an article or talk about an article, you throw it on the screen. You always throw it on the screen. He didn't throw it on the screen because the text contradicted what he was telling his audience they were saying. So at that point, you are comfortable literally just going on air and lying to your audience. I just don't really understand why, because you lose audience that way. I mean, people don't want to watch you unless you're trying to get, like Kurt said,
that's exactly right. That's it. And they're on the take in some way.
They don't have to be told. They're auditioning for it all the time. They're showing class and demonstrating they're worth it for potential new investors. So the skill is, how can I lie without seeming like a complete piece of shit like the MSNBC people?
Yeah.
Where like maybe a rich guy's like, oh yeah, the peasants will believe that. And they don't have to be told, like Chomsky said. They don't have to be told.
They don't have to be told.
They know what to do to maintain a relationship with power.
With power. And Kyle Kalinske flat out lied not only about that article, but Kyle Kalinske flat out lied about what the definition of the word corruption was. He told people, you just can't invent your own meanings. Well, I showed the goddamn definition of it, and he's never spoken about that since because it outed him as a bald-faced liar. He was doing that, and to protect he was saying that there's no way that the squad was corrupt. He went from criticizing them over forced to vote to boom, defending them with bullshit definitions of words. He was like a big pharma redefining what vaccine meant. He tried to redefine what corruption meant. And we all know what corruption meant, but he tried to redefine it in a way that didn't include the squad. And I called him out on it, and he's never brought that up again. So anyway, and you
didn't say Dickie McGeezax about it.
And his channel went from dead for 2 years after he lied about me and that sexual harassment Me Too. After he lied about me, and he got ratioed on 2 videos in a row, his channel went dead. Nobody watches it. Still, almost nobody watches the show, but he couldn't gain 1 subscriber. And now all of a sudden, he's gaining 30,000 subscribers a month. How is he doing that off the shit views he's getting? And it's because somewhere along the line, they found a DNC donor who's in with Google and YouTube, and they got something to get on that corporate algorithm. Because you and I both know that for every 3 subscribers you get, they unsubscribe 2 people. That's what they do to people in the independent news space to keep us suppressed, right? And so that doesn't happen to the Young Turks. That doesn't happen to people who are in with DNC donors. and it's no longer happening to Kyle Kulinski. So they made some deal. These are bad faith, bald-faced liars that we've caught Kyle Kulinski lying repeatedly. These are bad faith actors, and so they're obviously on the take, and they're saying things that they don't believe. How can you go from debunking Russiagate for 4 straight years to then going along with the culmination? And he was saying also that Russiagate is going to lead to a war with Russia. It definitely did, and then he was on board for the war with Russia. Hey, come see us do a live stand-up show. We'll be in Stockholm, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Oslo, Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, Cortland, New York, Oakmont, Pennsylvania, El Paso, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Denver, Colorado. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for all those tickets.